Hello YouTube, my name is Nero. Today we have some Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, and believe it or not, they are making a Call of Duty movie. So all this information is going to be coming from an article written on The Guardian. This of course is a news site, and if you guys would like to check it out, there's going to be a link to it down there in the video description. But essentially, The Guardian did an interview with Stacey Sher as was Nick Van Dyke. So who are these people? So Stacey is actually a producer. She's been producing a lot of movies and television shows over the years. She is well known for her work in The Hateful Eight, Django Unchained, as well as Pulp Fiction, as well as a bunch of other comedic stuff like How High and Garden State and Reno 911, believe it or not. And Nick Van Dyke was a senior executive over at Disney who actually helped in the acquisition of Marvel and Star Wars for Disney. And both of these people now are working for Activision Blizzard. They're actually the co-presidents of Activision Blizzard Studios, which of course is a studio owned by Activision Blizzard, who aims to take all the properties, or at least some of the properties, under the Activision Blizzard umbrella and try to turn them into television and film series. So that's who these people are, right? They're the co-presidents of Activision Blizzard Studios. They sat down, they did an interview with The Guardian to discuss the Call of Duty movie, which, believe it or not, guys, they're working on the Call of Duty movie right now. So in this interview, they actually reveal that multiple scripts have actually been written for a Call of Duty movie, and they've even gone as far as to start working with military experts as well as retired soldiers. And I assume the reason why they're doing that is they would like the movie to try and be as authentic as possible. If you guys don't know, what a lot of video game companies do is they will actually work with real weapons. They will work with actual people in the military to try to make their games feel authentic, and it appears they're doing kind of the exact same thing here for the movies. They said in the interview that they want the Call of Duty series of films to be somewhat similar to the Marvel Universe, and those are actually their words. That's not me trying to make a comparison. That's what they said specifically. Now, before we go any further, I would like to say that I'm not a superhero guy. I've just never been interested in that genre, really. So I've seen none, and I mean none, of the Marvel movies at all. So if there's anything in this article that kind of goes over my head, or if I speak incorrectly on something, please feel free to correct me down there in the comments, because I don't want to give you guys any false information. But essentially, Nick Van Dyke said that they aim to emulate how the Marvel Universe has individual universes that kind of interconnect. They have a timeline that has a bunch of consistent themes and Easter eggs and stuff across the board. So basically, they want everything to kind of tie together while at the same time being their own separate thing, right? So this could mean that if we have a series of Call of Duty movies, which again, they are working on it right now, then we could potentially have some Black Ops themed movies and some Modern Warfare themed movies, and those movies could sometimes tie together in one way or another. And I'm just saying, it would be freaking cool if we could get a small segment, at least, where Frank Woods and Captain Price have to work together on something, or have them be in the same meeting or something like that. Something like that would be really freaking cool. They say that shooting for the Call of Duty movie could start as early as 2018. And of course, with how movies work, the actual movie would release probably in 2019, perhaps 2020. Who knows? It takes a couple of years to actually film things and edit them and get everything all set up and perfectly put together, but they could start filming as soon as 2018 is what it says in the article, and they have plotted out many years in advance already. So chances are they have 2018 figured out, 2019 figured out, so on and so forth. They also mention in this article that they are looking into turning Call of Duty into a television series that would focus on historical conflicts like World War II and Vietnam. And I find that to be pretty interesting, because what would they do with it? Would they have a Band of Brothers style series where they would maybe, what they like to do with stuff like this, to my understanding, is they will take like something that actually happens within the core canon of the game or the movie or so on and so forth. Like, so for example, we'll have like something involving Frank Woods, but they'll introduce a new character as like Frank Woods' brother or something like that. And then eventually the show will just be revolving around Frank Woods' brother. Would they do something like that and then have it like go through the Vietnam War? Or what would they do with that? I have no idea, but it's definitely interesting. Like, my mind's racing with possibilities. I think a Call of Duty television show would be pretty cool, but at the same time, just when I think of Call of Duty, it has that stigma, right? Of Mountain Dew and Doritos and so on and so forth. And could you take a Call of Duty television series actually seriously if it is something like Band of Brothers? I have no idea. He also commented that the Call of Duty movies would be pretty much the same as the games, and in that they would be high adrenaline, high energy, just like they are in the games, but they would not be a literal adaptation, which is actually really good if you ask me, because if they were to make a Call of Duty movie or even a television show or what have you that is exactly like the game, it wouldn't be that interesting. interesting, at least in my opinion. Of course, people are going to disagree, but that's just kind of how I feel. If they made a Black Ops movie and they copied everything scene from the game, it would get boring quickly, right? I mean, after the first half hour, you'd probably be bored of that movie because the first 30 minutes would be spent just in awe at the fact that they recreated your video game as a movie. But once that initial novelty wears off, you might get bored with it. Whereas if they were to take some creative liberties, it could actually become more interesting. A good example of this would be what they did with the Warcraft movie. Now, it should be mentioned that Activision Blizzard Studios did not work on the Warcraft movie, but it is still under the same umbrella, basically, right? Of course, Warcraft is part of Blizzard, which is part of Activision Blizzard, so it's kind of all tied in together. And what they did with the Warcraft movie, and just as a side note here, if you guys don't know, I'm a huge Warcraft nerd. I play a ton of World of Warcraft. I just don't talk about it here on the channel. I don't make videos of it. I made a couple videos, I think, on Nero's Let's Plays, but aside from that, it's just a game I play rather than post. But I love the Warcraft series. Big Warcraft nerd, watched the movie twice. And what they did with that particular movie is they basically had the same story as what happens within the canon of the Warcraft universe, but they take creative liberties and they change how things happen. So for example, people die within the Warcraft series and they die in the movie, but they die in a different way that makes more sense within the movie. The same overall story happens, but it happens in a slightly different way to make it interesting for the film. And that's why I picture them doing with the Call of Duty movies. And I definitely think that could be pretty interesting. Like, it's a bit of a spoiler, but when Soap McTavish dies, perhaps in the movie, it would be in a much more a better way than how he died in the game. You know, that could be something that happens. Or the ending of Modern Warfare 3 could happen in a different way in the actual movie. Like, those are some of the creative liberties he may actually be talking about. But that definitely sounds interesting. Like, taking the Call of Duty series and its iconic characters and making it into a series of movies, that sounds freaking cool to me. I hope they do it well, because traditionally, video game movies don't do all that well. I mean, the Warcraft movie is the most successful one of all of them, and in the United States, it did not do very well. The only reason it actually, like, made money was it was so popular in China. So we're gonna have to see how it plays out. I feel as though if they do go along with this, right now it seems like it's super early on, but they have said they're working on the Call of Duty movies. If they do this, and I hate when I say do together like that, if they do decide to do this and do it right, they need to make sure that the movies appeal to the core audience, right? The actual people that play Call of Duty. They can't sell themselves out and try to appeal to absolutely everybody, right? Because if you appeal to the Call of Duty fans, it's going to appeal to more people. That's just the very nature of it, right? If you have everybody who buys Call of Duty every single year, which is tens of millions of people, if you can get all of them to buy a ticket to this movie, then I think you're going to be pretty happy, right? That's definitely how I see it playing out. But at the same time, to accomplish that, you need to make sure the series of movies is as true to the game as possible while still being interesting and different enough to actually be worth our time. So we need to have iconic characters like Captain Price and Soap, and we need Victor Reznov, and we need everyone else in there, right? We need all these people. Frank Woods, especially, my favorite character, I think, in all of the Call of Duty campaigns. I haven't played the Infinite Warfare campaign yet. I've heard it's actually fantastic. I should probably get around to playing that. But you need all these core characters in there, and then, of course, take your creative liberties, make it interesting. But that's what you need to have, I think, to actually appeal to the Call of Duty audience. If you appeal to them, if you get most of your actual fans going to the movie, that's going to get all the non-Call of Duty fans to potentially also want to see the movie, which is kind of one of the reasons why video game movies don't do that well. Fans of that video game will typically go watch the movie, but the movie doesn't appeal to everybody, so not everybody goes and watches it. Like the Warcraft movie, a lot of people didn't like it because it didn't make a lot of sense. Warcraft lore is freaking confusing, and so if you have no idea like what's happening or who any of these characters were going into it, you watch that movie and you're like, huh? What just happened? Right? It doesn't really translate that well. So Call of Duty, I feel as though it's in a better place than the Warcraft series. Like, I feel as though Call of Duty can be like an Expendables kind of a movie, just a popcorn summer flick where you go watch people do a shoot 'em up, right? Just like explosions and fast-paced action and stuff. That appeals to a lot of people. So I feel as though Call of Duty, it could be a great series of movies. It could be awesome. It could be a complete flop. We're going to have to see. But I wanted to make this video letting you guys know they are working on the Call of Duty movie. It's actually in production. Multiple scripts have been written at this point. They're working with military officials on making sure it's authentic and so on. They have ideas. They plotted out the future, basically. It's just a matter of when are they actually going to start filming, which they say could be as early as 2018, but we're going to have to see. If they actually start filming, that would be like the big thing for me. Like, it's official. official. They're actually doing this. So we're going to see how it plays out. I'll keep you guys up to date with more information as it becomes available, but I'd love to hear down there in the comments, what are your thoughts on the Call of Duty movie? Would you watch a Call of Duty movie, and what do you hope they start out with? For me personally, I would love to see a movie that follows the Black Ops series a little bit. Not to take anything away from the Modern Warfare games. They were fantastic. Great story, honestly. Amazing story. But for me, I enjoyed the Black Ops story a little bit more and the setting a little bit more. So if they do the movies and they do it true to the game, where they kind of start off in World War II, then escalate up to Vietnam and the Cold War and so on, that would be freaking awesome. So that's what I would like to see. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that down there in the comment section below. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Drop me a rating, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.